Howdy, everybody. How are you? Let's have a story time, you know. Let's talk about stealing logs. I think every sawmill of any size has experienced that sometime or another. And usually the ones that do some of the worst stealing are the ones that you'd least expect. One story comes to mind. This old boy had logged this sawmill for several years. He was a good logger. And he got to bringing a load home of the evening so he could get to the mill early that morning. That was his excuse. Nobody thought nothing of that. Well, what that rascal was doing, he'd put a big veneer log right on top of the load, unsnap the chains, and roll it off at his house. After a week or two, he'd have a pretty good little load of veneer logs. And he had an old loader there. They call him stiff boom loader. It looks like a big wrecker or something or other. And he had old in there. Nobody even knew the thing run, but he did. Every 2 or 3 weeks, he'd load him up a load of veneer and go to the veneer yard. And it took that old man a long time to figure out he was being stolen from, for he really trusted this guy, and they was friends, And the same guy made a deal with another sawmill. It was a big job. And they was cutting the timber. And he pulled all the veneer off of it and sold it. And when that guy said something about it, he said, "Oh no," said, "I bought that veneer separate from what you bought." Now everybody knows that's bull crap. What do you do? He could put him in jail, but they really he didn't have no solid core proof. And, but he is stealing. Another guy is cutting on the government. And there was a huge poplar at the head of a spring. And it was marked not to be cut. And they went in there overnight and cut that thing and got it out, dusky dark, and covered the stump up with brush. Well, a neighbor down the road just happened to see him go out there, 9 or 10 o'clock at night with a partial load of log. And he called Forest Service, told him what out. Said, "I seen that truck go out." Well, the Forest Service, I think it was the FBI, I don't know, it's some high-ranking law enforcement agency. They come in there that night and pulled that brush off that stump and cut about 6 inches of the stump off. And manhandled that up in a pickup somehow or another for his big tree. And they pretty much knew where he was going to sell it. It's someplace up here in Asheville, paid high dollar for poplar. And the next morning, they was waiting when he pulled in. And they just matched that end of that stump up the butt end of that log, and it was game over, I don't know what all they done to him over that. I know he was banned from the National Forest for life. He couldn't set foot on it. They take that stealing serious. And there's another old boy. There's a place up there they call the Coleman Boundary. And they was a huge white oak up there. I mean, it was a dandy white oak. For this area, it was just superb. And somebody dared him to cut that thing, and he did. And I'm almost sure there was a pretty good sized logger that lived up in there and wanted that log. And he figured if he could get it down, he could buy it, And I think he did, but anyway, that old boy cut that log. And this is back in the 70s. It seems like by the time they got through finding him and everything, it come to like $12,000. That cost him, and he didn't have money, and he had to pull time in jail over that and everything else. But that's just crazy, his old man down in Tennessee had bought a big patch of poplar, huge patch of poplar. For us, there's probably over 1,000,000 feet of it. And he seen the loads start dropping off coming in. And he's a pretty sharp old man. He really was. So he hired a private eye to go see what's going on. And he knew that old boy that was cutting that timber loved to see his name in print, like one of these timber books or something, other timber magazines. Oh, he just lived for stuff like that. So that private eye went to him and told him he was a writer for one of these timber magazines. Wanted to do a story on it. He said, oh yeah, go right ahead. So he come in there with a notepad and camera and started taking pictures and stuff. And there's a place down here in Marion that buys poplar peelers. And he was taking them down there, and that old boy took pictures of the logs being loaded, took pictures of them going down the road, and took pictures of them unloading them down there at that log yard. And that old man had the sawmill. He was just livid at that, for he had really went out of his way to be good to that old boy. I mean, he really had. And he had loaned him money, and he had just went out of his way to be good to him. And he was about to send him off. And he finally agreed. That boy had just bought a brand new 450 John Deere dozer. He said, if you'll give me that dozer, we'll call it even. And he did. And that old boy's dead now, but he is a little bit crooked, you know. But you can't never tell. I've had people steal from me and me bending over backwards to be good to them. And I think that's just in some of these people's nature. But now, loggers are stealing from sawmills is a major, major problem. The biggest sawmill that was in this area here, they're shut down now. I think they sold it out and moved part of it, but anyway, the mill's gone. They wouldn't allow a logger to have a truck. You could log for them, but you couldn't have no trucks. And they done all their own trucking. They'd come pick your logs up and take them to their mill. And they had pretty good luck like that. They could keep it beat down a little bit. But it's a sight what goes on. There's another old boy. He come to me on Friday, and he had brought some good logs in there that week. He really had. It was a little over $3,000 worth of logs he'd brought in here. And for a small mill like me, that's a pretty good bunch of logs. And I paid him. And I'd been up there on his job for something other, and the yard was full of some 20-foot white pine logs, and a lot of them was like 20, 24 inches at the little end. It was some good logs, they really was. And he come to me that evening. He said, Mike, I hate to do it, but said, can I borrow $500? Said they're gonna repo my truck if I don't come up $500 more. I mean, it's just pitiful. So I wrote him a check for $500. He said, you know them logs is there, and there's well over $500 worth of logs there. So that was on a Friday. Monday morning come, no logs come in. Dinner time come, no logs come in. I told Chad, I said, hook that log trailer up to that tractor. I said, we're gonna go get my log. So we went. You had to go down a hill to the log yard. And as we come down that hill, here come a tandem knuckle boom truck up out of there, loaded down a 16-foot log. I said, oh goodness. That rascal cut 4 foot off every one of them logs and sold them. I was giving more money than that log buyer was, and the scale would have been considerably more. But just to get out of paying me that $500 he'd done that. And we loaded up some of the scrap there, and that is it. You know, I never did fool with him no more. And he's just a thief. I'd say he's in jail somewhere right now. He's the biggest thief ever. He was as big a thief as I ever run across. For 6 months after I bought logs after him, my phone was ringing from people that he had stole from. The job beside that and where that big timber is at, the guy owned the store and was selling him fuel on credit. And he had some trees on the edge of his field that he wanted cut. And he asked him, said, would you go cut them trees? And he said, yeah. Well, they moved their equipment in there. And they cut every stick of timber that man had, and he wasn't wanting to sell his timber, he was just wanting to get that shade off his field. Well, he locked the gate. He was going to put an attachment on their equipment. They went through the fence and got on that other fella and bought his timber and started logging in. And I don't know how much money they cost that old man. They left an awful mess in there. They didn't water break the roads. Forest Service come in there and was about to find that old man. And I don't think he got a penny for his timber. And I come up with the receipts, what I'd bought off of him. I showed him what I had paid for. And that old boy was a sight. I've never witnessed nobody like that before. He'd steal the nickels off a dead man's eye. And there's a lot of them out there. I mean, you hear stories like that just all the time. People just bald-faced stealing. His old boy worked for me one time. He said, Mike said, I need to make all the money I can make. Said, I'm about to lose my home. Said, it's just terrible. Said, you reckon you could get me some firewood to sell? And I went and bought a quad axle load of firewood. I get $400 for it. And this is back in the early 90s. And no, it was in the late 90s. I get $400 for that quad axle load of wood. And I told him, I said, now if there's $400 worth of it, all I want's my money back. I said, whatever you can make off of it, you can make. I've yet to see the first penny. He sold every stick of that and didn't pay me a penny. Never seen nobody like that. And I mean, I'm just trying to help him out. But you run across folks like that every once in a while. You remember them. And you know, that's kind of sad for you. You'll remember them quicker than somebody that's really been good to you and really give you a good day's work. Like Laddie down there. Laddie helped me for 10 years. I don't think you could have made him take a nickel. Phil Anderson helped me for 3 years, kept his own time, and if anybody got hoodooed, it'd have been Phil. But, you know, you always remember these thieves and crooks and shysters. But I've had my share of them. And I'm sure everybody has been in this business, you know. Are these timber cutters, and they're supposed to be just a cat's mountain. They couldn't cut a stalk of corn down, much less a tree. One old boy, he come to me and he said, I want to put on my resume that I can cut timber. Said, I want to go out west and fight fire, and they'll pay me more if I can say I cut timber. And this is a big old boy. He is a brawler. He's a barroom fighter. Tough as nails. The second day he was helping me, out of the woods he come, holding his head, oh, and he'd cut it maybe that far. Oh, I'm gonna have to go get it sewed up. Oh, cost me $400 to get 3 stitches putting that bald head in. And I was just doing him a favor so he could put that on his resume, for the man couldn't cut a tree. Done that no more either. I ain't running no school. But there's no good deed goes unpunished. That's what I think. I'd say you'd think the same thing if you've been in this business long. And if you ain't been in this business long, you will learn it. So, talk at you later.